Do you want to know how to teach a child with learning disabilities? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I'm the mother of 4, previous foster parent of many who had learning disabilities. I also teach all about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, as well as education and child development through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we are talking about teaching children with learning disabilities. For many years, I have been teaching people, it's been like 25 years now, I've been teaching people the skills and principles of self-government as requested by people all over the world. And I've written books about it and those types of things and starred on television programs. And people are always wondering, okay, does this work for all children? Well, the answer is yes. I wish I could bring parents in here for you just from everywhere who have been working with children who are autistic or who have ADHD, ODD, RAD, DID. They've got, multiple personalities sometimes. Sometimes they have Down syndrome. There's so many parents who have worked with this system of parenting with their children. So what I'd like to do in this video is I'd like to talk about some of the unique struggles that you might be facing as a parent of a child with disabilities, and then also help you know the skills and the principles of self-government that are probably going to help you most so that you can find other things on this channel to help you. So when you're working with a child with disabilities, we need to recognize that their anxiety levels are likely going to be higher. So most people who struggle with disabilities also end up having higher levels of anxiety, and that's just because they have to try really hard. They worry that they're not going to measure up related to certain things. This could be physical disabilities or mental disabilities. It is very difficult for them to make it through some of those frustrations and anxieties. So we need to make sure that we come up with a way of communicating with our children that helps them through those things. Now, I know there are some people whose disabilities are much more severe than others. Their cognitive function could be very low. That could be hard. So working with a child who's autistic, say, or maybe a child who has multiple personalities, you still could maybe communicate with them on a somewhat normal level. But when you have a child who has severe cognitive impairment, maybe they have Down syndrome, or they have a problem with auditory processing and taking in information, this can make things much more difficult for that child. And it can create increased frustration for the adult that's working with them as well. So probably the first thing that I could tell you is your calmness is absolutely key. That's the number one thing that you need to be working on if you are trying to help your child with disabilities learn how to better self-govern themselves, how to know what's going on with themselves and make plans for themselves. That's the whole goal of this channel, is self-government. And everyone, no matter if they have learning disabilities or not, or any type of disability really, that calmness of the parent, the patience of the parent makes all the difference. So making sure that you are learning your own skills of self-government. Self-government is when you're able to determine the cause and effect of situations and you possess a knowledge of your own behaviors so that you can control them. So even a person with learning disabilities can learn cause and effect. In fact, you've probably felt manipulated sometimes by your child with learning disabilities, and this is because every person, even a person with learning disabilities, learns through cause and effect, and they start to try to control and interact with their world based on what they understand about cause and effect too. Now, of course, every person also, just like toddlers, every single person likes to see how much control they can have over their environment. A wise parent is calm, patient, but does not allow their child with disabilities to be in control of everything. It's very tempting for parents to baby their children when they have learning disabilities and not hold them to a high enough bar, so that then the child does not get the opportunity to succeed as much as they would like to, or to reach their full potential. I see this all the time. I was recently just at a home where the mother and father had multiple children who had learning disabilities. There were speech issues, there were cognitive function and processing issues, there was a mixture of autism and ADHD and DID, all of these things mixing together. And I loved seeing that the parents would just talk to their children normally. They would expect them to learn that normal cognitive function instead of babying them. When I'm meeting with parents who have children with learning disabilities, they've given those children a pass, a free pass on, normal function things. And I know it's hard when someone has a hard time maybe with executive functioning or something like that to go, okay, well, they just can't really do it. Actually, they can accomplish more than you think. So you've got to have that mindset while you're working with them. You've got to keep taking steps forward, because they will gradually over time, especially as their frontal cortex develops more over time too, develop more abilities in all of their areas of learning, whether it is in their physical abilities or in their mental abilities. So what can you do? What can you focus on as far as the skills and principles of self-government? First, yourself, your own self-government is going to be key. But then what? What do you do? Well, one key thing you do is you make your environment predictable. When a person has learning disabilities, like I mentioned, they often have higher levels of anxiety. Now, if you've subscribed to this channel already, you know that I have multiple videos about anxiety, so I'm not going to go into detail there. I'm just going to mention predictability is key. This whole Teaching Self-Government channel, which focuses on the skills and principles of self-government, is intended to decrease anxiety by increasing predictability. So what the parent does is the parent pre-teaches the child ahead of time about what skills and principles they are going to need to properly handle their situations and solve their problems. Now that sounds complicated, doesn't it? But it can be as simple as saying, let's work on how to follow instructions. And then you break it down. So following instructions is a skill that I teach in this children's book called London LeRae Says Okay. In fact, I have a set of 4 children's books that teach all of the 4 basic skills of self-government, which are needed to solve 99% of the behavioral problems. So in the book, London LeRae Says Okay, the child learns how to look at the person, and how that's one step of the skill following instructions. And then they learn how to keep a calm face, voice, and body. That is a second step of following instructions. And learning calm face could be one step, calm voice, another step, and calm body, another step. So you would examine each of these steps in this one skill. Then they learn in step 3 to say okay, or to ask to disagree appropriately, which is another one of the 4 basic skills, and there's a children's book for that too. Then they learn step number 4 is to do the task immediately. That means right now, right? So they learn, oh, I have to do it. And then they learn step number 5, which is to check back. So they come report back so that the parent gets the opportunity to give them feedback on how they did, so that they can properly learn through cause and effect. And there are ways that the parent learns how to give feedback in some of my other books intended for parents. One of those main ones is the book called Parenting a House United. We know that when you're teaching a child with learning disabilities, you need to have things be predictable, a predictable structure that they can rely upon. You need to pre-teach. But another thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that you have good follow-through. That's another part of your predictability. So if you teach them every single time, I will give you feedback. I will either praise or I will do a correction. I will help you process what happened so that you can learn from that circumstance and become better at self-governing yourself. This is going to help them with all of the learning. Now, part of that predictability also involves practice. So you're going to pre-teach ahead of time and practice each of the 4 basic skills of self-government, because these 4 basic skills of self-government are going to help you teach your child to read, do math, do chores, do proper social skills. All the things that we teach our children end up hinging on these 4 basic skills of self-government. And I know that sounds simple, maybe even too simplistic for you, but I promise you, if you learn the skill sets to the 4 basic skills of self-government and you learn how to give feedback to your child in a self-governed way, in short, you end up learning how to implement the entire system of teaching self-government in your home, you will have incredible success at your child learning, even through their disabilities and their cognitive differences. There are so many videos on this channel that teach things like how to teach a person how to read or write, or do basics in education. So you can find things like that here, but you also can find so many videos about how to help your child with their self-government skills. But there is below this video something that I think is really going to be beneficial for you. Remember at the first part of this video how I talked about calmness, and how calmness is the key thing that you need so that you can have self-government as you are teaching your child to have self-government. Well, in the description below this video, there's a link that says teachselfgov.com. If you click on that link, then you can have a Calm Parenting Toolkit, which is a mini course for calmness for free. This isn't a complete course on self-government, but it is a great course on calmness to get you started. So click on the link to that course now and start improving your own self-government so that your child will do better at their learning.